Hello and welcome to another episode of Soul Nectar show that talks about all things essence, where we gather around the campfire and we share our stories of that which is bigger than us and mystical moments and things that helped us to wake up and to transcend the drama and the suffering and to evolve into co-creation and really yummy stuff, the nectar of life. And your host, Carrie Hummingbird. Of course, I love nectar, and I love to help people to take those steps along their journey to get the first dribs and drabs of it, and then to get lots and lots and lots of it. As we go further and further down the path, we can experience amazing things walking step in step with the Great Spirit. It's so much fun. And I invite you guys to take this journey. Like, why not? Get off your couches. Let's go. Oh, wait a second. Listen to this broadcast first. Don't go anywhere because we're going to get started.
Wait, don't come back.
Psych. So today I'm so excited because I have Michele Molitor of Nectar Consulting. Isn't that cool?
Yes.
Nectar,
we magically found each other through the universe.
The universe, because we both love nectar. It's like so perfect. So Michele is the co-author of the best-selling book, Breakthrough Healing. She works with executives and entrepreneurs, bringing over 25 years of experience, intuitive insights, and strategic business savvy to their success. And so Michele has a unique rapid rewiring approach, which is a culmination of years of study in the realms of emotional intelligence, neuroscience, organizational psychology, and rapid transformational therapy. And so today we're going to be talking about, it doesn't have to take a lifetime to get where you want to go. Like, that is the old thinking. And the new thinking is rapid growth, rapid transformation through whatever means necessary. And Michele does it through like being a certified hypnotherapist and a trainer, a practitioner of this rapid transformational therapy. We're going to talk about it. I've actually experienced it because Michele and I, this is the cool thing, is when you have gifts, you can share them. And so we've shared our gifts with each other and experienced it. It's pretty cool. All right. So Michele, hi, welcome.
Thanks for having me on the show.
I am so glad to have you here. And I always start off my show with the question, tell us how you got started finding your purpose, because clearly this is definitely your purpose. This is what you came here to do, obviously. And yes, you know it. Everybody else knows it. Everybody that works with you knows that this is what you came here to do because you're really good at it. And how did you find this path? Like, what are some big moments leading up to it?
I literally stumbled into it. I was a creative director in my former career in web development. The height of the .com boom, got moved to San Francisco to run this creative team. Come on, hurry, we're going to IPO. I had a golden ticket, Carrie. It was so exciting. I thought
golden
I was
ticket!
a millionaire. And the week I started was the week we were going to IPO. And that was the week the market crashed.
Ow.
Right.
Ouch.
And so we kept persevering, and we were going to re-IPO or IPO for the first time in the fall, and the market crashed again. And all through that, I had been working 70, 80, 90 hours a week, pedaling like hell under the surface, trying to have all of the answers. And that wasn't going very well. And additionally, I essentially got bullied out of my job by two colleagues that I hired for my team. Yeah, They really didn't like having a woman for a boss too much. And so it was pretty devastating for me. I got laid off 9 months into my career there. And I was a total deer in the headlights. I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Literally, the thought of handing my resume to anybody was so terrifying. I was like, I don't know. Right. And my uncle, in all his wisdom, who lives here in California, said, why don't you get a coach? I was like, what? He's like, yeah, there's these things called career coaches now. I was like, oh, okay. And so I hired a coach to help me figure out what to do next. And in the process of being coached, all the cells in my body came into alignment, and it's like my spirit went, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I was like, oh, because I was a psych major in college, which is kind of ironic, right? So I ended up getting trained and certified, and I've been doing this now for 18 years, and I love it. I've been on a constant quest to be the best version of myself, to work smarter, not harder, right? And on my path of trying to get out of my own way and remove those last little niggly blocks, I discovered the work of Marissa Peer, who's a world-renowned therapist and has developed the process called rapid transformational therapy. And I did some work with Marissa, and it literally changed my life in a matter of weeks. Like, really, no kidding, weeks. The things that I had been trying to get rid of out of my subconscious for 20 years were gone in a matter of 3 weeks. My kitty Raven's here to assist us
Yay,
today.
welcome, Kitty.
Well, come on up, Raven. Come on, get on the show. She's never been on a podcast before. It's her first podcast. Yeah.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yes. So it was so profound for me, literally. I went on to get trained and certified with her, and have been one of her graduate trainers, and have worked with her organization to develop some coaching work as well. And ultimately what I've done is I've combined it with my coaching and what I call my 30-day rapid rewiring process, which you're experiencing. And it essentially enables me to have a conversation with someone's subconscious to get at the root causes of the beliefs, the emotional charges that keep us stuck in particular dynamics, right? Family dynamics, money dynamics, health dynamics, all sorts of things. And it's super powerful. It's really joyful for me to do this work, because I get to watch people's eyes light up as they eliminate belief structures that have been holding them back and keeping them small. I just had this happen yesterday with a client, and she was just like, oh, like her whole body shifted because she was able to let go of a belief that she wasn't good enough. And she remembered herself from prior to these incidents she's been experiencing. And it was just profound. So, so yeah, that's it in a nutshell. I get to do this every day, and it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's so awesome. I love this work. So what's really cool that I notice about your work is that you work with the subconscious, which is always operating under the surface. So
Yes.
like, I'm aware that we have a conscious mind that really is in control normally. And some of these other modalities of understanding this, I would call that the compensatory identity. Like, it's always compensating for whatever's like under the surface. And it's like, oh, rah, 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 nope, we're going to do this. And it's gung ho, and it does its thing. But then underneath is like this, what could be the correct identity, or like the places where we feel wounded or insecure, or we have beliefs where they're hard to look at, or we've sort of submerged them, we don't want to look at them. So tell us a little bit about your understanding of the difference. Like, when you're talking about subconscious, like, what's your understanding of like what that is even?
Sure. So if you can look at it this way, you have your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, right? Your conscious mind is your prefrontal cortex, your thinking, your reasoning, your logic, your creativity, that judging one inside of you that's like, what are you doing? Why did you is that a good color? Oh my God, what were well, all of that's all up in there. Your subconscious mind is, and that's about 10% of your brain capacity. 90% of your brain capacity is your subconscious mind. And these are all the beliefs, all the ideas, every event that has ever happened to you is nicely stored in your subconscious, right? So there may be things that happened to you when you were a little girl, right, that you don't remember consciously, but your subconscious can pull that data up for us if we were to ask, right? So it's a way of accessing that much larger part of your brain capacity to get at the memories, the beliefs, the ideas that you've been carrying around for a long time that you probably don't even know are in there, right? I always jokingly, not so jokingly, say to my clients, well, you got some junk in your trunk, right? We just got to get rid of that.
Yeah, the junk in the trunk. And we're all, and it's the junk in the trunk that we don't know is there is sabotaging us like every step of the way. And the thing we say we want, because if you're not aware of it, then that means you can't make a choice about it. Like,
Yes, exactly. Right. There's a part of your brain called the amygdala. It's part of your limbic brain, which is the your ancient reptilian brain. And I like to call her Amy. Amy's your amygdala. And Amy's job, her sole job, is to keep you alive and on the planet safe. It's your fight or flight or freeze mechanism, right? So anywhere along your path, you have an event, you experience something, and your amygdala, your Amy's like, oh, that was bad. We don't ever want to do that again. Noted. Like, she has very copious notes, right? So as you move through your life, if anything that remotely resembles that event, Amy would be like, nope, I got this. We're not going there, right? Look over there, squirrel, diversion, anything to keep you from doing that same thing that could cause you pain or could have you die, right? Eliminate you from the planet. So Amy is very vigilant. And all of that stuff is stored in your subconscious. And so through the rapid transformational therapy process, or RTT for short, because that's a big old mouthful, through the RTT process, we're able to access those memories and essentially eliminate the emotional charge so that Amy makes some new notations. Oh, okay, that's no longer a problem, right? And it doesn't get you triggered like it would have in the past. So you're able to move beyond it and continue to move forward with greater power.
yeah, that's a great description. So I love that. And I notice also when I work with clients that um, part of it is that they don't know even that they have emotional charge around something sometimes because they've suppressed it and spiritual saran wrapped it, like squirreled it away in a little locker.
I tucked it over here in a corner and you forgot about the corner.
Yeah, it's kind of like the, if you ever think about when you were a kid or something and somebody was mean, you're like, well, I just don't even care about that. You know, and then you just walk off and forget about them and, you know,
That didn't
grandiose.
really hurt me,
That didn't
but
hurt
yes,
me at
it did.
all, you know. But like still it's underneath there. It's still a thorn until it's really dealt with, until it's seen. It's like, oh wow, I really still am holding on to that. Like I'm still really
Yeah.
resentful about that, or I'm still really upset about that. But I mean, if we were going to go through all the little moments of that, it would take forever. So this doesn't do that, right? Like we're not actually going through every single limited
No.
belief in some really prolonged process of identifying every single way that you're sabotaging yourself, right?
No, that would be torturous, right?
It's like painful.
Essentially, what I'm able to do is I take my clients and I drop them into a very relaxed state of hypnosis. And hypnosis is not about being asleep. It's just about letting your critical judging mind take a backseat to your subconscious, right? And enables you to access those memories. And we simply ask, when someone's in hypnosis, what's at the root, the cause, the reason of this block? And your mind will bubble up just the right answers that you need to have in order to help you connect the dots, right? So we might get three completely different scenes in a regression phase, right? And they might not have any connections, but the client ultimately is able to connect the dots between those scenes to the underlying message that their subconscious really wants them to know. Like, oh, this is really about being safe, or this or that, whatever it happens to be based on each person's own experience.
And my
One of
feeling
my
about that subconscious thing though is that it's actually the soul. Like that is your soul talking to you. Like so on one level for pragmatic people that would be called the subconscious. On the other level for people in my audience that would be called the soul. Like is telling you through the larger consciousness that you are what's
Yes.
happening.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes is emotions that cannot find their vent in tears will cause other organs to weep, right? So
Wow, that is a great quote.
it's Dr. Henry Maudsley he was a psychiatrist at the turn of the 18th century, 19th century. So long time ago, very wise words. And, you know, we all have those wounds. And if we don't process them, if we don't shine the light on them and go, yes, I see you, I understand, yes, that hurts, and allow ourselves to move through it, they do get stuck. They get stuck in those dark corners, right? And over time, that dis-ease can eventually lead to disease, whether that's stress, worry, fear, to health issues, to chronic health issues, right? So, you know, I do a lot of work with folks who are dealing with health issues, folks who've had chronic inflammatory bowel syndrome or chronic migraines or arthritis or psoriasis or um, blown out adrenal glands, right? All from all of these symptoms. These are just symptoms of a root cause of an emotional issue that was never properly dealt with, right? So, for example, I had one client I worked with who had created a multi-million dollar company by the time he was like 27, you know, real rock star. And yet he literally almost worked himself to death because he suffered from severe adrenal fatigue. And he had been under the care of doctors for 2.5 years, and he was making progress. He wasn't like completely bedridden, but he still was only able to work a few hours a day. And so we worked together for 90 days, and he happened to have had some blood work done before and after our work together, and his doctor was amazed because his blood work results shifted dramatically inside of 90 days in the work that we did, even though he'd been working on it for 2.5 years under regular doctors and nutrition and diet and all those other things that were part of it. But what we discovered at the root cause of his constant, like his word was, I'm going to crush it. I got to crush it. I'm like, actually, no, you don't. Right. And all of that was driven by the need to get approval from his dad. His dad was verbally, mentally, physically abusive to him as a kid. And everything he did was, he felt like he was being judged. He was constantly on guard and had to like be the top of the top of the top in order to be loved, right? And when he undid all of that and sought for the truth of what it was, like, oh, actually, he realized I am enough. I'm doing a great job, and I don't need to worry about being judged anymore. It shifted him completely. His health rose, his business he created a whole new business, and it's off the charts these days. And so it's just fascinating what we lock in our bodies and we don't even know is there.
That's amazing. Yeah, those things that we thought we were done with just because we got out of childhood.
Nope, you've been carrying around for far too long.
But I often wonder because it took me a good 40 years to really reveal and cover within myself the impact of my 0 to 5 traumas and things that I experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can people speed that up? I mean, or do you have to go through this process of like allowing all that stuff to simmer and cook and simmer and cook and simmer and cook until you finally decide like, oh, okay, something's going on, I need to fix it? I mean, I feel like, can't you just start now? Like, I try to get my teenagers to start now because of course I'm like, I'm a mom and I do this work, and so I'm like, I really feel like you should look at this because I think in your childhood there was this one time that I screamed at you. And I really think we should process that, like heal that now because I don't want it to affect your whole life. And
yeah, I don't want years of therapy bills because of it, right?
like, how does this like get that over with now?
Move that out of the way. Well, yes, and Carrie, I think you know this as much as I do. We're all on our own individual paths, right? And we have our learning that we're here to do, and it looks different for everybody. So some people it might happen at 19, some people it might happen at 40, some people it might happen sooner or later, right? So it's that moment that your soul is like, hello, excuse me, I have an issue. I need to talk to you about this. And like, no, and people will ignore it until something dramatic happens 9 times out of 10 that gets your attention. For me, it felt like I was thrown into a brick wall in my career. Like, nope, this is not for you, girl. Get off the bus, right? I was like, What? I thought that was my bus. No, not your bus, right? Um, my dear friend Sherry Ann Tom, she's a 5-time cancer survivor. 5 times.
5 times.
And each time it was her body, her spirit trying to get her attention, like, you're working too hard, you're pushing too hard, you need to slow down. And she's like, oh yeah, I know, I didn't get it. Yeah, I got, no, I didn't get it, right? And it took her 5 times to really sincerely, wholeheartedly, like, okay, I got it. And she's taken that pain and turned it into an amazing gift. She has a company called The Cancer Journey, and she trains people all over the world on how to become cancer coaches, to walk with people on their cancer journey, right? So your soul will get your attention however your soul needs to get your attention, and it won't be a moment before until it is. And then you start to, the lights come on and the awakening starts to happen. It's not a midlife crisis, it's awakening, like, oh, I'm actually supposed to be doing something different with my life. I was leading a webinar this morning, actually, with a group of men, and it was fascinating because they're all striving and wanting to make more money and be successful and build wealth, right? And I asked them, like, so how many of you are striving towards this wealth because you're fueled by your passion and your purpose? And they were like, no, I haven't quite figured that out yet. I was like, oh, okay. Right. And so what that tells me is they're not to that place of awakening yet, because oftentimes our passion, our purpose comes from these gifts of pain, right? That we learn about ourselves. We learn, like, oh, no, not that. And then the changes can shift, and the understanding, the learning can come from that place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also find that once you do make that shift, it's important to honor all the steps along the journey.
Yeah.
Like, I've had clients want to, like, just cut off that other thing. Like,
Let me just
not
cut off
me.
my arm because I didn't really
It's
need
just
it.
like, not me. That thing, that part of me, not me. Like, I don't want that. And I try to explain, and this is a concept that's challenging for some people, but there is no time in the subconscious. There is no time, like, right? It doesn't know about watches and time, and that we think that we're moving linearly towards a destination. It doesn't know that. Everything's convoluted in there, and it thinks it's all happening now. So, like, your 5-year-old is happening now. Your 25-year-old is happening now. Everything is happening now inside of you. And so if you disown that part of you, then you're actually doing so much damage to yourself. So it's like, that's why non-judgment of your path is so important, to just learn from it and grow from it and take the nudges and take the redirections and go, oh, okay, ha ha ha. You just banged me up the head 3 times to get my attention. Awesome. Let me, instead, and going, wow, you want to show me something new that I might like better. Instead of like, oh, you stupid, you did that and you didn't listen and wasted all that time and like,
Yeah.
I
You
mean,
can't spin your head around that, beating yourself up, because that doesn't heal anything. That just makes it worse, right? It just takes you further down the rabbit hole.
because as you're saying that to yourself, your little 5-year-old hears it and goes, oh, I'm bad. It's like it re-injures it all over again.
Right.
It's hard to explain that to people, though, a lot of times, because they don't understand that it's normal to have all these aspects of self operating at the same level at the same time inside of you, because we've been trained that that's like multiple personality or something, but that's not multiple personality. Everybody has a 5-year-old within them and a 20-year-old within them. Every age you ever were
Right.
is all existing within you right now. Everybody has that.
Well, and we talked a little bit about this earlier, right? There's a great book called The Biology of Belief by Bruce Lipton. And it's, for all you science geeks like me out there, it's super sciencey. It has all sorts of research in it. But essentially, his research led him to this understanding that it's your cells that hold your reality, your beliefs, your thoughts, your emotions. And that creates the reality that you have, what the thoughts that you think, the emotions that you have about yourself, whether you were 5, 10, 20, or 40 or 50, right? Whatever age it is, those thoughts, those emotions impact you at a cellular level. And those cells then have you move through the world in a particular way, right? So even though we are shedding cells all of the time, there's 50 trillion cells in your body, right? And they evolve and they shed at different rates, right? So I think it's every 7 years, you have a completely new body, essentially. However, your soul, your subconscious remembers all of it. So there's no escaping it.
Yeah. And so I studied, actually, Bruce Lipton came to talk to the students when I was at school with the Four Winds Light Body School, because he's friends with Alberto Vialdo. And it was really interesting to hear him talk in person about this and talk about his research with the cell and how he realized that the membrane of the cell, because he was trying to figure out how to transplant cells between people.
Mm-hmm.
And he realized that the membrane of the cell is what was preventing a cell from being able to be transmitted between or transferred between people. It was the membrane. And he was like, that's interesting. Well, why is it the membrane? And then he realized the membrane was a receptor, that it was a receiving a signal. And that's when he realized, oh my God, we really are spiritual beings. Like, this cell is receiving information from a greater consciousness that's outside of it. That is crazy. So like, he started realizing all these things and he became very spiritual because of it. But he was talking about how the brilliance of the energy work, right? Like transformation, we're talking about transformation, however you do it. But in this modality, it's energy medicine that the Four Winds is teaching and that I practice. And you do it in a different way through this subconscious rewiring. It's like, yes, the cells hold all this content from your whole life is restored there. All your beliefs and all these big experiences, and even not only yours, but your ancestors like pass through. So all this content's inside of you and it's directing your life, like under the surface, which isn't going where you want it to go, necessarily. So with the energy medicine, or with this technique that you use, this rapid rewiring technique, you actually resolve that subconscious piece, and then what's stored in the cell is now changed, actually. And that is what gets replicated. You can rewrite it. It's sort of like recapitulation is a Toltec practice. You can rewrite your history through, and you use
Yes.
it when you do your tool, I noticed.
Absolutely, absolutely, because your mind doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's imagined in a state of hypnosis, right? So you can look back at those old memories and see what you're seeing and feel what you're feeling and decide, no, I'm going to rewrite the script. I'm going to choose a different outcome for myself, one that's empowering, one that's filled with self-love. And that creates this powerful ripple forward effect, right? And so it changes how you show up. It changes your body chemistry. Literally, your beliefs change your body chemistry. One of the other things that Bruce Lipton figured out through his research was, we thought it was the DNA that was in charge of how our body operates. But as you said, it's actually the cell membrane that makes, what turns on and what turns off. And so understanding this, we can actually shift some of our DNA as well, which I thought was mind blowing. Right?
Yeah,
I'm
we
like,
turn markers
it's
on.
science. I love science.
Yeah, we don't need to have it the way it is. So even if like every generation going back 10 generations on your mother's side had breast cancer, you can turn it off. Like,
Yeah.
you actually can choose that and turn it off. And that's what people are starting to wake up to realize right now. Now, what's interesting is I've shared this information with people before about recapitulation, about going back and changing the past, like changing what happened.
Mm-hmm.
And people are like, well, that's lying. And I'm like, no, it's not. Okay, so like, I've had a past memory where I did one of these regressions, and I had a scene where my first stepfather had a guitar. He was playing guitar. And I'm like 1.5, 2 years old. And he leaves the room and he says, now don't touch the guitar. And he leaves it on top of the bed. So what do? Like, I'm Come on. So I
go and touch the
go
guitar.
touch the guitar, and it makes a sound, and he comes back in and beats, kind of beats me. So that was very traumatic. That was my first memory. So what I did was I rewrote it in my dream, like in my past, regression. And I said, okay, in this version of my, I'm creating an alternate universe where what happened instead was that he gifted me a little guitar that was perfect for me and my size, and we played it together. Now that's a better outcome. And that made me feel better inside. Now, is that what actually happened? No. But inside, like the version of me that was attached to that other version and was really upset about it still is now comforted because I have another potential that could have happened. And I'm giving that to myself as a thing that happened within me. I'm not claiming it happened out there. I'm saying in here, that's what I'm
Right.
holding on to.
Right. And that's very similar to what we do in the rewiring process and the way I describe it, Carrie, is that we're eliminating the emotional charge. We're not changing the history. We're simply changing the story around the history. Your history is your history. What was done, what was done. You know, bad things happen to people, but how you react or respond to that event is all the difference, right? Reacting is that knee-jerk reaction that right, and we get angry, we get upset, we cry, we shout, whatever, versus responding where you take a breath and respond appropriately in the moment to what's ever happening. Because when you have a painful event like yours at a very, very young age, right? It creates a belief. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable. I'm not something, right? And you carry that forward, and that colors all of your decisions from that point forward, right? But in this process, we're able to go back and rewrite it and create a more loving outcome that feels good, that feels better, which shifts the emotional charge, changes the chemicals that are released in your body, that has Amy, your amygdala, go, oh, okay, not a problem anymore, right?
Yeah, it's
And
been resolved. There's been a
it
beneficial
ripples
outcome.
all the way forward in a good way versus in a bad way.
Yeah, and I've even done that process where I've just done a personal journey where I recapitulate and just go through. I've gone through all the ages I ever was, and I only did it like a few years at a time because it's a lot of energy, and just like basically looked at my baby and went, okay, removing all the shadow, filling up with light. And then looked at the 1-year-old, removing all the shadow, filling up with light, and not even knowing what all the shadow is. It doesn't even matter. Like,
Mhm.
I don't care. Do I want to know what that stuff was? No, I don't want to know. So just releasing the energy, even like there's a place where we can get out of the story. Like we don't have to
Yes.
hold on to the story anymore. We just deal with the energy.
Yes, exactly. Because it's the energy that we're carrying around that weighs us down, that creates all those filters, those shields that, we walk around with all this armor on us, right? To stay safe. Because Amy's like, oh, you got to stay safe. You might die. We don't want anybody to die. Right. And so as you do that, you're literally able to drop the armor, let it fall away, and to live lighter and brighter, which allows your energy to expand and shine more brightly. And then the law of attraction kicks in, and like attracts like. So as you're vibrating at a higher frequency because your emotions are a higher frequency, then you're attracting to you more of that goodness, and then it creates an upward spiral effect, which is really the best way to go.
Yeah, and sometimes as we fill up with more light, that just makes space for some deeper shadows to emerge, and that's okay too. It's okay if some things finally have a space to be witnessed and released, because nothing ever really goes away. You can't get rid of it, right, until you witness it and really feel it and express it and let it be, right? I mean, this kind of idea about, well, I thought I was because the reason I bring this up is because I have people that say, well, I thought I was ascended, and then I was attracting only good things to me now, and then something bad happened and I had all these old feelings. And I try to explain, like, this is layers to the onion. It's just that a deeper level of it was ready to be witnessed now because you're strong enough to handle it. Like
Yes.
you've filled up with enough love now that it's okay.
Right. That saying, the universe doesn't ever give you more than you can handle. Right. And so you get something, you learn it, you let it go. You get something, you learn something, you let it go. And you're peeling off these layers. And there's all this ooey gooey stuff way at the center of the onion that's still kind of icky, a little rotten there sometimes. And so eventually you get to it, but it's a process, right, of going through the evolution and learning what you need to learn so you can shift what you need to shift. And then be
Exactly.
a bigger, brighter teacher for others, right?
Yeah, so we're always growing on this journey. That's the other thing is anytime somebody says, I'm done learning, I got it now. I'm like, oh boy.
Okay, then you must be ready to transition because
Oh
that's what that
boy.
means.
Like here it comes. Like that's why I don't like to say those things because I know
Yeah.
so anytime I've ever said those things, whack, there's like another the next level of like stuff that I didn't know that is actually a blessing to explore in retrospect, but like at first it feels like, oh no, thought I had it all figured.
I thought I had handled. Oh no, I didn't handle that quite
Dang.
all the way yet. Dang. Yeah.
The next puzzle.
Yes, the universe has quite the sense of humor.
Yeah, it does. So now, but as you do this work, I find that I'm more resilient now when nothing happens. Like I'm kind of more savvy to the game of it now. And I don't have these expectations anymore that it's just all going to be done and I'm going to go sit on a beach and drink Mai Tais. Like I know that like I've started down the path and now there's no turning back. So talk a little bit about that. Like how do you find it is with your understanding of things? And I think it makes me more resilient. How about you?
Oh, absolutely. I'm incredibly resilient because, I have a little coach in my head, right? One of my teachers many years ago, he would, he'd see me struggling with something and get all up in my face and go, recover. I'm like, oh, right. And so it's a choice, right? Every moment that we fall into the pit, it's a choice of how long you want to stay there. And so, I'm known to have conversations with myself and I'll be in my puddle of muddle. I'm like, I just want to sit here for a few more minutes. Leave me alone.
My puddle of muddle. I like that. That's cute.
I'm just in my puddle of muddle and I'm going to stay here for a little while and I'll eventually get out. Right. And you get to stay there and process as long as you need to. And then you move on to the next thing. But each time you're able to do that, you're letting go of some of that old garbage, right, that you've been carrying around, and you feel lighter and you feel brighter. But it also makes you more aware, more emotionally intelligent, right? You're able to be more reflective of yourself from that outside perspective, like, oh, okay, when I come across things that are really challenging, one of the first questions I ask myself is, okay, well, who am I being that had that come into my life? Who am I being energetically that had me attract that to myself? Like, okay. So I always pause and look here versus like, oh, I need to blame so and so. Like one day I pulled into the Wendy's to get a burger on the way to go something because I was really hungry and I was in a hurry. And there was apparently a long line at the drive-through and I didn't realize it. And this man literally got out of his truck and started like banging on my window, like, you cut me, you better let me back in the line. I was like, whoa, dude, like, really? You want to fight with me over a line at the Wendy's? Okay, I'm just
Wow.
gonna leave. Yeah, and he was a big dude too. I was like, he's like, roll down your window. I'm like, I'm not smoking. No, not gonna do that. I just
No,
left.
no, thank you.
Thank you. And so I was like, wow, what's going on in my energy field that had me draw that in, right? So I if I do get caught in a negative thinking pattern, which happens to all of us, right? Even those who are well versed, um, I I I just tell myself, raise your vibration, raise your vibration, raise your vibration. Find a different thought. Find a place of gratitude. Wow, look at the beautiful sky out there. Oh, watch my kitties outside playing with a lizard or whatever it is she's doing right now. Right? Watch the hummingbirds, and that's like fills me with air, with light, with love, and it can shift things even more quickly. So it's a practice though. I mean, I've been doing this inner work for 20 years now, essentially. And there's always more to learn.
Well, sometimes those things happen because you're meant to be the example of compassion and forgiveness and holding a state of love through a challenge. Sometimes those things happen because you're meant to be a teacher in that moment.
Yeah.
A lot of light workers are like trying to avoid all the sticky moments. They're like, I don't want that. Get it out of here. I'm trying to bypass it. Like it's like, no, sweetie, you're meant to be a teacher. Like you're gonna run up against people that need some help because you're here to help them. So we do get
Yes.
confused because we do like to avoid. Nobody likes to have things like that happen, but
No.
sometimes they happen because we're supposed to be a teacher in that moment. Well, this is really interesting. I had another thought and I think it's gone. Dang it. It was a really interesting question. This is so fascinating.
Light workers, resiliency,
Yeah.
learning, growing, bouncing back.
And deepening and bouncing back. That's
Yeah.
what we're here to do, and it's different levels of self mastery as well. We're all having our own level of self mastery that we're working through. And so we're going to get, our own challenges. A lot of times light workers say to me, well, Carrie, how come I've had like this much challenge in my life and other people appear to have like this much challenge? I don't understand that. And they're like struggling with this much challenge and I've had this much challenge and I'm like, bring it on. And I'm like, well, because everyone has the commensurate level of challenge that would challenge them in their current life. That's why, because we're all here to be challenged. So we all are, not everybody's at the same place on this journey, not to have
Exactly. You know
arrogance
what?
around it, but yeah.
We each have our own soul contracts, if you will, and our agreements of how we decided to come in this time, right? And and it is frustrating, you see those people in the world who are just like dirt going along, and they have a
Having the
perfectly
Mai
good,
Tais on the beach, and you're like,
right? They're just doing their thing, but completely unaware, and just perfectly, happy as a clam. And sometimes I'm like, how come I didn't get that? Right? I just want to be happy as a clam. But I'm like, oh, because I'm here to do other things, right? I'm here to be a light worker and to be a healer and to help people evolve, myself included. And so it's like, okay, well, that person has more learning to do, and it probably won't happen in this lifetime. So they'll be back in some other shape or form, right? So there's that kind of level of frustration that comes up for me sometimes. Like I'm terribly impatient, Carrie. Terribly. I'm like, why can't I have that right now? Right? I'm a good person. And it's like, oh, okay, well, there's more to learn apparently.
yeah, I just learned that when you sign up for it, you get the challenges. The answer is yes.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
The answer is yes, and some of it's going to be uncomfortable, but it's
Yes.
okay. At the other side, it feels great. And I know that when I get out of this body and I'm like at the end and I look back, I'll be like, great job. I'll be like, yeah,
Yeah.
you really powered through it. So, but right now it feels a little bit sometimes like, oh man, I just want to go to the beach and have those Mai Tais. And maybe I
Yeah.
will, just take a little break. But
Yeah.
this is fun. I love this work. It gets addictive, doesn't it?
Yes. Oh, it's totally addictive. We were talking early. I'm like, yeah, I get to have these little coaching orgasms with my clients. Those
Yeah,
moments where they have that aha, and their lights come on, and they get themselves at a whole new level, and the stuff falls away. And I'm like, yes,
that's right.
that's what I'm
It's
talking
good
about.
stuff.
It
It's
is good
good
stuff.
stuff. You know what I realized I lost my question before is because you did that hypnosis thing.
What did I do? You're
I don't
getting
know. I just think,
heavy, dreamy,
oh,
drowsy.
you do that thing, and my brain is just like, oh, it's Michelle. Oh, I can relax, go to sleep. Oh, wait a second. No, I can't. I have to be. I'm doing an interview right now. Stay awake. Don't fall asleep. So
I know.
anyway,
Well, I do it on myself sometimes too, so it's hilarious. Like, oh wait.
and it's really not scary. Oh, I know what I was going to say. So the thing is, a lot of times when people start blocking the the hypnosis thing or the healing thing, or they're like, oh, it doesn't work anymore for me now. That's just because your ego figured out how to block it, and And really, like, the thing is to understand that and to go, it's not that the modality failed to work for you. It's that your ego knows how to block it. And so now you need to work with your ego to relax because there's fear. So I was telling you earlier, because I've seen that movie. What is that movie where the Get Out? Have you seen that movie
Uh,
Get Out?
no, I
Oh
haven't.
my God, it's
For a particular reason.
freaky.
Yes.
And anyway, like, she hypnotizes this guy, and he goes inside of himself so deep, and then somebody else goes, ah! Anyway, if you guys haven't seen that movie, it's freaky. You probably don't want to see it because then you'll be scared.
Yeah, that's
But
why I didn't see it. I don't like scary movies.
I know.
And it's really important because I want y'all to know that
That's
there's
not what Michele does.
hypnosis, and this is not that. It's very safe. You're absolutely in control. You know, I always tell people you're awake. You
You're
can answer the
totally in
questions
control.
I'm asking you, but your body's just really, really relaxed. So your subconscious mind has an opportunity to speak its truth.
And
Right.
you
So
remember everything that's going on anyway. You remember it.
absolutely.
But it was so funny because as I was telling Michele before we got on this broadcast, because she recorded one of these for me and I've been listening to every day, which is so helpful. It's really actually really helping me a lot. I was like, at one point, one day, I think it was like the third day, my ego was like, what if she switched it out and now it's saying different things? Like, I actually stayed awake the entire way through it because my ego is so paranoid. And I got through it and I was like, okay, ego, you just need to relax. It's exactly the same recording that was there at the beginning. It's fine. So a lot of this is just your ego is just like really terrified of change, and it's trying to protect you. And we, some of these patterns are just, they need to be shifted. So we got to shift that shit. So Michele, how do people get started with you to shift it? How do you want them to get started and get going with you?
Sure. Where first and foremost, you can always go visit my website, nectarconsulting.com, right? And check out my work, but go to the brain candy section. It's my favorite place on my website. And it's chock full of free resources and interviews like this. And actually, you can get a copy of my book, Breakthrough Healing, right? You can order it from Amazon through there, or you can get one of my free ebooks, How to Saying No with Grace and Grit. And the cool thing about my ebook is that it comes with a guided transformation recording, which you download and you listen to for 3 to 4 weeks and just start to watch the shifts and changes that happen. But if you're, actually want to dive in and do some of this work with me, then you can go to my website and there's a link to my calendar there for a discovery call. We'll spend 30, 45 minutes on a complimentary call in a confidential way, and you can tell me what's going on with you and see if this work is right for you to help you get to that next level. So it would be my honor and delight to get to work with any of Carrie's peeps and her tribe and be of service. So thank you
Awesome.
for having me
Yeah,
on the
and
show.
I recommend you guys try it out because there's all these different modalities for healing, and I believe in spiritual P90X because I know how tricky the ego is, and it loves to but if you do spiritual P90X, just like the body workout, you confuse it, and then you get around it. So I recommend different modalities.
Yes.
Come do an energy healing with me. Go see Michele and do mix it up because your ego just won't even know what's coming next.
Yeah.
So
Many ways to
for the
get us.
highest good anyway. So it's for the highest good and only for the highest good.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a delight having you on the show. I really enjoyed hearing from you and having this conversation. Lots of good tips in here for everybody. I hope you guys out there found this helpful and got some good tips and information and some validation for your own journey maybe that you're going through right now. Like, that's exactly what I'm going through, because it's helpful to be validated.
Yes.
And isn't it though, Michele? It's like,
yes. Like, oh, I'm not the only one. Yeah, trust me, everyone, you're not the only one going through this.
not the
We're
only
all
one.
in this together and
Collectively.
collectively. And the most important thing to remember, if anything, from this conversation is know that you are enough. Right?
Yeah. Beautiful. I love that. All right. Well, speaking of that, I'm going to make one request of you guys to please give us a review on iTunes so that more people find this broadcast and receive all this beautiful wisdom that's in this show today, this episode today. So please share it out, and please also leave a review. And I'm going to give kisses. You want to join me? I always give
Yes.
kisses. Okay, here they come, people. Kisses, kisses. Love you all. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Soul Nectar Show.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks,
Bye,
Trey. Bye.
everybody.